Ireland in the 3rd century. Now, even in the 3rd century, Ireland knew what international trade was. She's wearing an overgown from Egypt with a cloth of gold depicting horses and stags on a cotton ground. Her collar is gold, dyed with shellfish and lichen. Even then, they like bright colors. Her cap is linen, dyed with as well, giving that nice bright yellow color. They can do even in the 3rd century. Mistress Breed. Thank you, Breed. Next is Grim the Skull. Grim is what we like to call a Viking. Well, we call him a Viking because he is a Viking. He is from Iceland in the 11th century. Although he's pretty well traveled, his tunic is of the heavy style, that's made of wool. Underneath that, I don't know if he can show it to you or if you can see it, he's wearing a wool under tunic. Please keep it modest, friend. He's wearing breeches, and around his legs, he has wool leg wraps. That's to keep his legs nice and warm on cold medieval days like this. And on his feet, boots in the heavy style. Master Grim, who is also wearing arm rings. Always fashionable in the Viking set. Next up, Lord James Albany. Now, Plantagenet in England saw a change in fashion among the nobility and well-to-do counties at this time. The short tunics of the Saxons and Normans were replaced by a long tunic coat, just as Lord James was wearing. The new coat had a high collar, wide, loose sleeves, and this was worn over an undertunic, close-fitting sleeves. Lord James Allen wears this coat with the common accessories of the time. Those would be a belt, a dagger, a pocket, as the belt cuff was called, and a special item, the favor or token of the affection of his lady, Lord James Allen. Next, we have Lady Loretta. Loretta is ready for an evening of dancing in her French ball gown. Her outfit presents a picture of grace, beauty, and above all, wealth. Although Loretta is from Italy, her family is so affluent that she can afford to have the finest clothes imported from fashionable France. All right, we'll find out what they're wearing in France. Her bodice is made of rich brocade, with boning on the inside to give the garment support and structure. Her full-sleeve chemise is plain white to provide contrast with the bright colors of the bodice. Her blue overskirt and peach underskirt are made with as much fabric as possible. Now, this is done for 2 reasons. First of all, it sure is sign of wealth how many extra yards of fabric you can afford in your clothes. Second of all, it makes for a lot of fun on dancing. Kind of like that. On Loretta's feet are sturdy boots, cobbled by the finest of shoemakers. They provide support necessary for staying light on their toes, while at the same time also being lovely to look at for a long night of dancing. A string of pearls adorns her neck, and a snood that makes sure that her hair stays as it's supposed to be, and her head looks finely appointed for a lady property. That lady being Lady Loretta. Our next fashion plate is Harvey Weingut. Now, Harvey comes from the late 14th century in England. Now, his main garment there is a wool coat Harvey, and that's most of what you can see. I'm going to tell you about a lot of things that you can't see. Like, he's wearing a linen undershirt. Yeah, he can't really show you that. He's like, give him a cup. Thank you, Harvey. His legs are made of wool trousers. They're split hose. And it wouldn't look too modest if he showed you those. All right, he's going to do it anyways. And those are being tied to braids, which are kind of a baggy medieval underpants. I'm really hoping that you don't show it. Thank you, Harvey. His hood has a long Alera pipe. That's that thing right there. on his head and keeps his hair in place and warm. He has a belt with a purse and pointed leather shoes. Harvey Weinberg. Next, a lady of the 14th century, Myrie Wallace. Myrie is wearing a simple 14th century Gothic fitted dress, and as befits a proper lady, she has a veil. Myrie Wallace. Next, we have Boyarina Katrusha, the Squamaroa. Now, her underdress, also seen as hygienic underwear, was usually covered by a second dress. And hopefully that's covered by a second dress today. Oh, good. The sleeves were kept long, both as a sign of wealth, the extra fabric was expensive, as well as to keep her fingers warm. Her sleeves were held up with metal, wood, or even leather cuffs. The overdresses of the 15th century in Russia were more decorative and usually closed by a cloth belt. This one is hand-woven and decorated with bells. Now, the bells are important. In Russia, both the color red and bells were worn to keep away evil spirits. Katrusha, are you having a problem with evil spirits today? It usually works. Coats or caftans were normally worn open to show off the rest of the fine clothing. As a married woman, her head is completely covered. The hat is a kokoshnik, and that's the typical headdress of a married woman. And the pearl netting, called a podniza, helps balance the hat. This is why she is not off balance today. Although earrings were not worn, temple rings were often seen on hats. Sometimes they were stuffed with rags, soap, and fragrant oils. From the 15th century in Russia, Boyarina Katrusha. Now here we have a couple of ladies wearing 15th century coupolons. And I could just wing this and tell you I know a lot about them, but I'm missing one of those cards. Exactly. So they're going to show you what they're wearing, and I'm going to talk about it like I know what I'm talking about. You're all going to go home and say, wow, that guy knew nothing. Oh, I don't have the book. So, dag sleeves, the dag sleeves, the big decorative things hanging down. That's right, heavy wool that keeps them warm in drafty halls. You'll notice that Diana in the green has a hood with a larapite. And Deirdre is wearing, again, the traditional veil. And what else am I missing? All right, got it all. Round of applause for that. Next, we have Lord Geoffrey Fanshawe. He is from the mid-16th century in England, and what he's wearing is patterned after a portrait of King Henry VIII. Always a stylish guy. Notice the position of his arms forced by the gown that he's wearing. This is definitely a matter of style over comfort. Lord Geoffrey Fanshawe. Next, we have Lady Ignatia. From the early 16th century, Ignatia is wearing a transitional French Renaissance gown in rich brocade, and the transitional French hood on her head is a perfect accompaniment to that gown. Pan Nikolai von Meissen is from the late 16th century in Poland. The cowpat, or cowpat, or Polish hat, is made of red wool trimmed with Russian mink. You'll notice that he has both a brooch and feathers decorating his hat. Brooches and feathers were commonly used for decoration. He's wearing on his body a green tunic, a red silk staff taken from a fallen enemy, a saber belt, and red cavalry pants. Notice those yellow leather riding boots. The color was very expensive and was worn as a sign of wealth, especially by this area. Pan Nikolai. Lady Olivia is a refined lady of the court of Elizabeth I of England. So that would be the mid-16th century. And this is a gown of that period. Note the Italian bonnet and the hand-embroidered and beaded stomacher and forepart. Lady Olivia. Lord Nicholas. Lord Nicholas comes from London in the year 1550. He's well turned out this afternoon in his doublet, with his jerkin underneath it, knee-length pants, and to keep his ankles cold in the London fog pose. Lord Nicholas. Lady Renata hails from the 1600s in England. She is wearing underdress of linen, an overgown of damask dyed with indigo and weld. And once she ties on the sleeves and puts on some pearls, her gown is complete. She also wears more pearls and a snood. And that's the thing on the head. Lady Renata. And finally, Lord Eric Forrester. Now he wears a 17th century slashed doublet in red silk and black velvet. This fashion began with Italian mercenaries who wished to display silks. They plundered while protecting them in battle under a plain overture. Now that fashion spread to the upper classes, who naturally decorated both legs. You'll notice his hat is tipped up on one side, and that's to allow the wearer to shoulder the muscle. Lord Epic. Well, that's the dance show for this year. Please stick around. We're going to show you some medieval dancing. In fact, we're going to give you an opportunity.